The morning my key stopped working in my own front door, I knew something was wrong. Through the frosted glass, I could see Patricia, my wife of 32 years, standing next to a man in a $1,500 suit. She was smiling, not her usual tight smile, but the smile of someone who just won the lottery. She raised a paper to the glass, a restraining order with my name on it. "This is my house now, Robert," she said through the door. That's when I realized, after 3 decades of marriage, I'd just become homeless in my own driveway. The morning sun hadn't even cleared Camelback Mountain when I found myself standing at my own front door, key in hand, staring at a lock that no longer recognized me. January in Phoenix can be cold, people forget that, but the chill running through me had nothing to do with the 40-degree weather. "Come on," I muttered, trying the key again. The teeth scraped against metal, refusing to turn. My hands, the same hands that had installed this very lock, that had built this entire house board by board 32 years ago, were shaking. Not from cold, from the slow, creeping realization that something was very, very wrong. Through the frosted glass panels beside the door, I could see movement, shadows shifting in what used to be my living room. Then Patricia appeared, and my blood turned to ice water. She was smiling, not her usual tight, practiced smile, the one she wore at country club dinners. This was different. This was the smile of someone who just won the lottery. Behind her stood a man in a $1,500 suit, James Crawford. I'd heard the name whispered in hushed tones at the golf club. The lawyer who'd turned divorce into an art form, the one they called the Shark of Scottsdale. Patricia walked closer to the glass, her heels clicking on the Italian marble I'd imported specially for our 20th anniversary. She didn't open the door. Instead, she raised a piece of paper and pressed it against the glass. A restraining order, my name at the top, clear as day. "You need to leave, Robert," her voice came through, muffled but triumphant. "This is my house now. My lawyer says if you don't leave the property in the next 5 minutes, we're calling the police." Crawford stepped forward, his shark smile matching Patricia's. "Mr. Mitchell, I'd advise you to comply. The temporary restraining order is quite specific. You're not to come within 500 feet of this property, or Mrs. Mitchell, your belongings will be sent to you eventually." My mind couldn't process what was happening. Yesterday, just yesterday, I'd slept in that bed, drank coffee in that kitchen, worked in my shop in the garage, restoring the '67 Mustang I'd bought for Daniel's 30th birthday. "Patricia, what the hell is this?" My voice cracked, and I hated myself for it. "We haven't even been to court yet. The divorce papers were filed 3 weeks ago. You can't just actually," Crawford interrupted, his voice smooth as oil on water. "We can. Arizona law is quite accommodating when it comes to protecting victims of emotional abuse. Your wife has documented years of controlling behavior, financial manipulation, and psychological trauma. Judge Harrison signed the order yesterday evening. Emotional abuse? Financial manipulation? The words hit like physical blows. I'd worked 70-hour weeks for 3 decades, building Mitchell Construction from nothing into a $5 million company. Every penny I'd earned had gone into this family, this house, this life we'd built together. Patricia tapped on the glass with her wedding ring, the 3-carat diamond I'd saved for 2 years to buy. "Your truck's been reported stolen, by the way. I mean, it is registered in my name. And the bank accounts? Well, Arizona is a community property state. I've withdrawn my half. You should really check with Wells Fargo about your remaining funds." The ground beneath me felt like it was tilting. The F-150 Platinum in the driveway, the one with Mitchell Construction painted on the side, was apparently no longer mine. The business account, the personal savings, the investment portfolio Frank Morrison had helped us build, how much of it was gone? "You have 3 minutes left," Crawford said, checking his Rolex. "I'd hate to see you arrested on your own, excuse me, on Mrs. Mitchell's property." I stumbled backward, nearly tripping over the morning newspaper, the same newspaper I'd picked up from this same spot every morning for 20 years. My legs felt like water as I made it to the sidewalk, pulling out my phone with numb fingers. Michael Chen answered on the second ring. "Robert, it's 6:30 in the morning, man. Everything okay?" "Mike," the words wouldn't come. "How do you explain that your entire life just evaporated? Can you come get me? I'm at the house. Was at the house. I'm on the sidewalk now." "What? Robert? What's going on? Patricia? The locks are changed. Everything's gone, Mike. Everything." There was a long pause. Then Michael's voice, steady and calm, the voice that had talked me through my father's death, through Daniel's teenage years, through every crisis of the last 30 years. "Don't move. I'm coming. 15 minutes." I sat on the curb like a homeless man, which, I realized with a sick laugh, was exactly what I was. 58 years old, built a company with my bare hands, raised a son, buried both parents, and here I was, locked out of my own life with nothing but the clothes on my back, and a phone that would probably be shut off by noon. That's when I noticed her. A woman standing by the stop sign at the corner, watching, not gawking like the neighbors starting to peek through blinds, but observing with the intensity of someone taking mental notes. She was maybe 40, wearing a simple black suit that looked expensive in an understated way. Dark hair pulled back, sharp cheekbones that suggested Eastern European ancestry. She walked toward me with the confidence of someone who belonged everywhere and nowhere at once. "Mr. Mitchell," she said, and her accent confirmed my guess. Russian, but softened by years in America. "My name is Elena Volkov. We need to talk." "Lady, this really isn't a good time." "I know exactly what time it is," she interrupted, her green eyes never leaving mine. "It's time for you to decide if you want to curl up and die, or if you want to fight back. Because what's happening to you right now, it's not random, it's not sudden, and it's definitely not legal." She handed me a business card. Simple. Expensive. Volkov Forensic Accounting, with a phone number. "I don't need an accountant," I said. "I need a lawyer. I need a miracle." Elena smiled, and something in that smile made my skin prickle. "Mr. Mitchell, you hired me 3 years ago to audit your books when you were bidding on the Phoenix Municipal Airport project. You probably don't remember, it was a small job, but I remember everything, and I've been watching your wife's financial movements since then." "What? Why would you?" "Because Patricia tried to destroy my brother the same way she's destroying you, and unlike you, he didn't survive it." She turned and started walking toward a black Tesla parked across the street. "When you're ready to stop being a victim, call me, but don't wait too long. In my experience, the first 72 hours determine everything." As her car pulled away, Michael's BMW rounded the corner, but all I could think about was Elena Volkov's words echoing in my head. The first 72 hours determine everything. The clock was ticking, and I didn't even know what game we were playing yet. 7 days. That's how long I'd been sleeping on Michael's couch, living out of a duffel bag, trying to make sense of how a 32-year marriage could implode in a single morning. But when Elena Volkov walked into Michael's conference room that Tuesday afternoon, carrying a leather briefcase that looked like it contained state secrets, I realized I hadn't understood anything at all. "Gentlemen," she said, setting the case on the polished mahogany table with the precision of someone defusing a bomb, "what I'm about to show you will change everything you think you know about this divorce." Michael leaned forward, his lawyer instincts on high alert. "Miss Volkov, I appreciate you reaching out, but Robert needs facts, not speculation. Crawford's already filed enough motions to bury us in paperwork for months." Elena's green eyes flicked to him, then to me. "Mr. Chen, I don't deal in speculation, I deal in data, and the data says Patricia Mitchell has been planning this operation for exactly 3 years, 2 months, and 14 days. "Operation?" I laughed, but it came out bitter. "You make it sound like some kind of military campaign." "That's exactly what it is." Elena opened the briefcase and pulled out a tablet, swiping through screens faster than I could follow. On October 26, 2021, Patricia Mitchell had her first meeting with James Crawford. Not about divorce, about strategy. She paid him a $20,000 consultation fee from an account you don't know exists. The room went silent. Michael and I exchanged glances. "That's impossible," I said. "I know every account we have. I built this family's finances from nothing." "No, Mr. Mitchell. You know every account you created, but Patricia opened this one using the life insurance payout from your mother's death." Elena turned the tablet toward us. There it was in black and white, Scottsdale National Bank. Account opened November 28, 2019. 3 weeks after Mom's funeral. My chest tightened. Mom's life insurance. $500,000 that Patricia had said went into our retirement fund. I'd been too grief-stricken to verify, too trusting of the woman I'd been married to for 3 decades. "It gets worse," Elena continued, pulling out a stack of printed emails. "These are communications between Patricia and Crawford, obtained through, let's say, legal discovery channels. Read the subject lines." I picked up the first email. Subject: Operation Golden Years, Phase 1. My hands started shaking as I read. "James, confirmed enrollment in ASU Online, Paralegal Studies. As you suggested, understanding the system from inside will help immensely. Robert remains unaware. P. She went back to school?" Michael grabbed another printout. "Without telling you?" "Every Tuesday and Thursday," Elena said. "When she told you she was at her book club or yoga class, she was studying Arizona family law. She spent 3 years learning exactly how to destroy you within the legal system. I felt like I was drowning on dry land. Every yoga mat in the car, every book club recommendation, every evening she came home talking about warrior poses or character development, All lies, all preparation for war. But the affairs, I said weakly. Marcus, the tennis coach. I saw them together. Show him the invoice, Elena said quietly. She slid a paper across the table. It was from a talent agency, Desert Stars Entertainment. A billing statement for services rendered. Marcus Torres, actor. Role, romantic interest. Duration, 8 months. Total, $45,000. An actor. The words came out strangled. She hired a fucking actor? Mr. Torres, whose real name is actually Marco Ramirez, has quite an interesting resume, Elena said. But that's a revelation for another day. The point is, everything you thought was spontaneous betrayal was actually choreographed theater. Michael slammed his hand on the table. This is fraud, criminal conspiracy. We can do nothing through traditional channels, Elena interrupted. Crawford owns half the judges in Maricopa County through campaign contributions and blackmail. He's handled their divorces, knows their secrets. Going through the courts means playing on his field. Then what do you suggest? I asked, though part of me already knew the answer. Elena smiled, and for the first time I saw something dangerous in it. We play a different game entirely. But first you need to decide something, Mr. Mitchell. Do you want to simply survive this divorce? Or do you want to ensure that Patricia and Crawford never do this to anyone again? Before I could answer, the conference room door burst open. Michael's son Tommy stumbled in, looking like he'd run all the way from ASU campus. His laptop bag was slung across his shoulder, his usually perfect hair a mess. "Dad! Uncle Robert!" he gasped. Then noticed Elena. "Oh, you're already here. Good. Tommy?" Michael stood up. "What are you doing here? You're supposed to be in class. Forget class." Tommy pulled out his laptop, fingers already flying across the keyboard. "Remember how you asked me to look into Crawford's digital footprint last week? Well, I found something. Something huge." Elena raised an eyebrow. "You're the Chen prodigy. MIT at 16, back to ASU for your doctorate in cybersecurity." "That's me," Tommy said without looking up. "Also the guy whose ass Uncle Robert saved from a hate crime 3 years ago. So when Dad called, he spun the laptop around. Look at this." The screen showed what looked like a private server directory. Hundreds of folders, each labeled with a case number and name. "Crawford keeps trophies," Tommy explained. "Digital recordings of every divorce he's won, every man he's destroyed. He calls it his trophy room. 47 cases over 8 years, average settlement in favor of the wife, 92% of marital assets." "Jesus Christ," Michael breathed. "That's not legal representation, that's systematic destruction." "It gets better," Tommy continued. "Or worse, depending on how you look at it. 3 of those men committed suicide within a year of their divorces. 8 are homeless. 15 lost their businesses. Crawford doesn't just win divorces, he annihilates people." I stared at the screen, seeing name after name, file after file. These weren't cases, they were graves. "Can we use this?" I asked. "Not legally," Tommy admitted. "I obtained it through creative methods. But Uncle Robert, there's something else you need to see." He clicked on a folder labeled Active Cases, Premium. "You're not just another case. You're what Crawford calls his masterpiece. Look at the fee structure." The document showed Crawford's usual fee, 30% of settlement. But for my case, there was an addendum, additional 20% bonus for complete financial decimation. "He's getting half," I said numbly. "Crawford's taking 50% of everything Patricia steals from me." "Which, based on their projections, would be about $2.5 million, Elena added. "Your company, the house, the investments, everything." The room fell silent. I could hear the blood pounding in my ears, feel 32 years of marriage crumbling into dust, but underneath the pain, something else was stirring, something that felt a lot like rage. "Uncle Robert," Tommy said quietly, "there's one more thing. I've been monitoring Crawford's communications, and tomorrow at 2 o'clock he's meeting with someone you should know about. Barbara Harrison, the judge's wife." Michael frowned. "Why would—" "Because," Elena interjected, "Barbara Harrison's sister was Crawford's victim number 12. He destroyed her marriage, took everything, left her with nothing. The sister killed herself 2 years ago. Barbara wants revenge," I said, understanding dawning. "She wants justice," Elena corrected. "And she's willing to help us get it. She knows Crawford's patterns, his weaknesses. More importantly, she has access to her husband's chambers. Legal access." I stood up, walked to the window, looking out at downtown Phoenix spreading beneath us. Somewhere out there, Patricia was probably shopping with my money, planning her future with Crawford's help, laughing at how easily she'd played me for a fool. "You asked if I want to survive or if I want to stop them," I said, not turning around. 3 years. She planned this for 3 years, studied for it, hired actors. Built an entire false narrative of abuse while I was working myself to death to give her everything she wanted. I turned back to face them. Elena with her cold determination, Michael with his quiet fury, Tommy with his brilliant mind and debt of gratitude. I don't want to stop them, I said, my voice steady for the first time in a week. I want to teach them a lesson they'll never forget. I want Crawford's other victims to get justice. And I want Patricia to understand that when you spend 3 years planning to destroy someone, you better make damn sure they don't get back up. Elena's smile was sharp as winter. Then, Mr. Mitchell, we have work to do. The first thing you need to understand is that we're not playing defense anymore. From this moment forward, we're on offense. And unlike them, we're not going to take 3 years to plan. She pulled out a burner phone, placed it on the table. Barbara Harrison is expecting your call in 1 hour. Tommy will continue monitoring their digital communications. I'll be tracing every financial transaction Patricia has made since your mother's death. What about me? Michael asked. You're going to file so many counter-motions that Crawford won't know which way is up, Elena said. But they'll all be diversions, smoke screens for what we're really doing. Which is? I asked. Elena's eyes glinted. Building a trap so perfect that by the time they realize they're in it, the walls will already be closing. Patricia thinks she married a construction worker. She's about to learn she married an architect. And architects, Mr. Mitchell, always keep the original blueprints. For the first time in 7 days, I smiled. It probably wasn't a nice smile, but then again, nice was what got me here in the first place. The passive phase was over. It was time to build something new from the ashes of what they'd burned. The construction site at 7th Street and Thomas was supposed to be my sanctuary. Even living on Michael's couch, I could still come here at dawn, smell the concrete dust, hear the excavators roar to life. This was my world. Steel and stone, blueprints and building permits. Real things you could touch, measure, trust. That illusion shattered when Rex Durham walked onto my site at 10:30 Tuesday morning, 2 weeks after Elena had revealed Patricia's 3-year con. I recognized him immediately. Every contractor in Phoenix knew Rex Durham, the cop who'd gotten too dirty even for the Phoenix PD, the private investigator who'd plant evidence for the right price, the man who'd once broken a witness's jaw and walked away claiming self-defense. Mitchell, he called out, stepping over rebar like he owned the place. We need to talk. My foreman Carlos moved to intercept him, but I waved him off. Whatever this was, I didn't want my crew involved. This is a closed construction site, Durham. You need a hard hat and authorization to be here. He smiled, pulling out his phone. Oh, I've got authorization. Your wife hired me to document your violent tendencies. Amazing what these cameras can catch. He held up the screen, showing a video of me from last week, hammering stakes into the ground with obvious frustration. Look at that aggression, that rage, jury's gonna eat it up. That's me doing my job. That's you displaying violent behavior patterns, he interrupted. But here's the interesting part. Your wife's medical records from last Thursday. Another swipe on his phone. Bruising on her upper arms. Defensive wounds, the doctor called them. Consistent with grabbing, shaking, time-stamped 2 days after this video was taken. My blood went cold. I haven't seen Patricia in 3 weeks. I haven't been within 500 feet of her. Your word against medical documentation. Durham pocketed his phone. But hey, I'm not here just to chat about that. Your wife wanted me to deliver a message. Daniel's got a choice to make. He can stand with Mommy at the hearing next week, or he can kiss his trust fund goodbye. The one Grandma Caroline left him? Yeah, turns out Patricia's the executor. Funny how that works. Daniel. My son who'd been trying to stay neutral, who'd been eating dinner with both of us separately, attempting to maintain some kind of relationship with his parents through this nightmare. Now Patricia was weaponizing him. She can't do that. The trust is ironclad. She can tie it up in court for years, Durham said. Legal fees alone would drain half its value. Kid's smart enough to know that. 28 years old, working at that tech startup, probably needs that money for his own future. House down payment, maybe a wedding someday. Be a shame if Mommy's hurt feelings cost him everything. Before I could respond, another voice boomed across the construction site. Roberto! Roberto Mitchell! I turned to see a man I'd never met but instantly recognized from reputation alone. Sergio Torino, 6'4", built like a bulldozer, wearing a silk suit that probably cost more than my workers made in a month. His presence made Rex Durham look like a choir boy. Mr. Torino, I said carefully, I don't believe we've done business. No? He pulled out a contract, waving it like a flag. Your signature says different. 200 grand for my concrete supply company. Payment due. Oh, look at that. 72 hours ago. I took the contract, scanning it quickly. My signature was at the bottom, except I'd never signed this. The date was from 6 months ago, during a period when Patricia had been helping with the business paperwork while I was dealing with a massive project deadline. "This is forged," I said flatly. "Prove it in court," Sergio shrugged. "In the meantime, you owe me $200,000, plus interest, plus penalties. We're looking at about $250 now." Durham was recording everything on his phone, smiling like Christmas had come early. "Wow, Robert, mob connections too. This just gets better and better." "I don't have $200,000, I said, which was true. Patricia had cleaned out everything liquid. "My accounts are frozen." "Not my problem." Sergio stepped closer, and I could smell garlic and cigarettes on his breath. 72 hours, Roberto. After that, accidents happen. Construction's a dangerous business. Cables snap, scaffolding collapses. You know how it is." The threat wasn't subtle, but before I could respond, my phone buzzed. "Elena, I need to take this," I said. 72 hours, Sergio repeated, then looked at Durham. "You getting all this for the wife?" "Every second," Durham confirmed. They left together, and I answered Elena's call with shaking hands. "Robert, where are you?" Her usually calm voice was urgent. "The Thomas Street site. Why?" "I need you to come to my office immediately. Don't go to Michael's. Don't go anywhere else. Just come straight here." "Elena, what's up?"
It's about your mother's death.
"Something that changes everything." 40 minutes later, I sat in Elena's Scottsdale office, staring at medical records, insurance documents, and toxicology reports that made my world tilt off its axis. "Arsenic," Elena said quietly. "Trace amounts administered over approximately 6 months. Not enough to trigger standard toxicology screening, but sufficient to cause the kidney failure that killed her." My mother's face flashed in my mind. Those last months when she'd been so tired, so weak. Patricia bringing her soup every day, playing the devoted daughter-in-law while I was working 18-hour days to land the airport contract. "You're saying Patricia murdered my mother?" "I'm saying the forensic evidence strongly suggests systematic poisoning. Look at this." Elena pulled up a credit card statement. "Patricia purchased arsenic-based ant poison 6 times in 6 months, always from different stores, always paid cash, but she used her rewards card twice. Sloppy. But Mom's death certificate says natural causes, kidney failure. Arsenic poisoning mimics kidney failure perfectly. No one tested for it because no one suspected it. Your mother was 78 diabetic. Everyone assumed it was natural decline." I stood up, paced to the window, my hands clenching and unclenching. "The life insurance $500,000. "Which Patricia used to fund her 3-year divorce plan," Elena confirmed. "She killed your mother for startup capital." The room spun. I gripped the window frame, fighting the urge to vomit. Mom had been murdered, slowly, methodically poisoned by the woman I'd shared a bed with for 32 years. The woman who'd held Mom's hand at the end, who'd cried at the funeral, who'd delivered the eulogy about what a wonderful mother-in-law Caroline had been. "We need to go to the police," I said. "With what?" Elena asked. "Circumstantial evidence? Purchase records that could be explained away? Without exhumation and detailed testing, we have nothing prosecutors would touch. And who would authorize the exhumation? Patricia, as the executor of Caroline's estate. Then what? We use it as leverage," Elena said. "But carefully. If Patricia knows we know, she might run, or worse, she might accelerate whatever else she's planning." My phone buzzed. A text from Daniel. "Dad, Mom says I have to choose. Says you're dangerous. That Durham guy showed me videos. I don't know what to believe anymore." Then another, from an unknown number. "TikTok Roberto. 71 hours remaining. Ses." I looked at Elena, at the evidence of my mother's murder spread across her desk, at the text from my son being forced to choose sides, at the threat from a mobster I'd never met, holding a debt I'd never incurred. "They're squeezing from every angle," I said. "Yes," Elena agreed. "This is Crawford's signature move. Maximum pressure from multiple vectors. Most men break within 96 hours. Most men didn't build their company from nothing. Most men didn't raise their son alone while their wife played country club socialite. And most men didn't just find out their mother was murdered." Elena studied me carefully. "So what do you want to do?" I thought about Mom's last words to me. "Roberto, that woman doesn't love you the way you love her. Be careful." I thought she was just being overprotective. Now I knew she'd been trying to warn me even as Patricia was killing her. "We don't break," I said. "We bend. We make them think they're winning. And then when they're celebrating their victory, we show them what pressure really means." The 72-hour countdown had begun, but I'd built my entire life on deadlines and pressure. This time would be no different. Except this time it was personal. The Phoenix Memorial Cemetery at dawn was empty except for me and the groundskeepers. February 15th, exactly 1 month since Patricia had locked me out of my own life. I stood at my mother's grave, holding a simple bouquet of yellow roses, her favorites, and trying to make sense of everything Elena had revealed. Caroline Mitchell. beloved mother, grandmother, murdered by her own daughter-in-law for insurance money. The polished granite headstone reflected the sunrise, but it also reflected something else, my face. Haggard, unshaven, aged 10 years and 30 days. I looked like a victim. I looked defeated. I looked exactly like Patricia and Crawford wanted me to look. "I'm sorry, Mom," I whispered. "I should have protected you, should have seen what she was." A breeze rustled through the Palo Verde trees, and for a moment, I could almost hear Mom's voice. "Stop feeling sorry for yourself, Roberto." I didn't raise a quitter. That's when it hit me. Really hit me. I wasn't fighting for a house or money or even my reputation. I was fighting for justice, for Mom, for Daniel, for every man Crawford had destroyed while building his empire of broken families. My phone buzzed. Tommy Chen. "Uncle Robert, you need to get to my apartment right now and bring Elena." 30 minutes later, Elena and I sat in Tommy's cluttered campus apartment, surrounded by computer monitors that probably cost more than most people's cars. Tommy's fingers flew across 3 keyboards simultaneously, code streaming across screens faster than I could read. "Okay, so remember how I found Crawford's trophy room server?" Tommy didn't wait for an answer. "Well, I've been digging deeper. This isn't just documentation, it's a whole fucking museum of destruction." He pulled up file after file, videos, audio recordings, financial documents, photographs, each folder labeled with a name and date. David Martinez, 2015, lost his plumbing business, living in his van now. Stephen Walsh, 2016, attempted suicide twice, currently in psychiatric care. Marcus Thompson, 2017, wife got everything, including his medical practice, overdosed on oxycodone 8 months later. The names kept coming. 47 men over 8 years, each one systematically destroyed using the same playbook. False abuse allegations, hidden assets, planted evidence, emotional manipulation of children. But here's the kicker. Tommy clicked on a folder labeled Golden Project, Mitchell. "You're not just another case, Uncle Robert. Look at this." A video file opened. Crawford's face filled the screen, sitting in what looked like his home office, talking to someone off camera. "The Mitchell case will set me up for life," Crawford's recorded voice said. $5 million in assets, plus the construction company. Patricia gets half, I get half of her half. $1.25 million. But more importantly, it'll be public. Robert Mitchell's a known name in Phoenix. When I take him down, every wealthy woman in Arizona will want me representing them. He's using you as advertising," Elena said quietly. "But I was focused on something else," Crawford had said. "Play that again. The part about Patricia getting half." Tommy rewound. "Patricia gets half, I get half of her half." "That's not what Patricia told me," a new voice said from the doorway. We all spun around. A man I didn't recognize stood there, short, wiry, intense eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. "Who the hell?" I started. "Vincent Marcelli," he said, extending his hand. "Former client of Crawford's, current investigative journalist for the Phoenix Sun, and the reason you're going to win this war." Elena stood up slowly. "How did you find this place?" "Same way I found the other 11 men willing to fight back," Vincent said. "I've been tracking Crawford for 2 years, building a case, but I needed someone with resources, connections, and the balls to stand up publicly." "You're it, Mitchell." 12 men, I asked. Vincent smiled grimly. "Oh, there's more, lots more. But 12 who haven't been completely broken. 12 who still have fight left. We've been meeting, waiting for the right moment. You're that moment." Tommy pulled up another screen. "He's right. I've been tracking communications between these guys. They call themselves the Brotherhood. They've been pooling resources, sharing information, planning something big." "Planning what?" I asked. "To take Crawford down permanently," Vincent said. "But we needed a current case, someone in the middle of the fight who could be our spearhead. Robert, you're still in play. You haven't lost yet. That makes you valuable." Elena had been quiet, studying Vincent with those calculating eyes. "You're the one who wrote the expose on judicial corruption in Maricopa County. The one that nearly got you killed." "Crawford arranged that attempted hit," Vincent confirmed. "Sergio Torino's boys." Which brings me to another interesting fact. Sergio's been Crawford's enforcer for years. "That debt you supposedly owe? Crawford arranged it. Patricia signed the papers, but Crawford set it up." The pieces were falling into place. This wasn't just Patricia trying to steal my money. This was Crawford's entire criminal enterprise, with my wife as his latest accomplice. "I want to meet them," I said suddenly. "The Brotherhood. All of them." Vincent checked his watch. "Can you get to the warehouse on South Mountain by 8 tonight? That's when we meet." "We'll be there," I said, then looked at Elena. "All of us." Elena had been typing on her phone throughout the conversation. Now she looked up and there was something different in her eyes. Something I should have recognized earlier. "Robert, There's something I need to tell you, she said, about why I'm really here. The room went quiet. Even Tommy's keyboard stopped clicking. My name is Elena Volkov. Yes, I am a forensic accountant. Yes, but before that I was FSB, Russian Intelligence Cyber Warfare Division. She paused, letting that sink in. I left that life 5 years ago when I came to America with my brother Alexei. We started a tech company here in Phoenix. It was successful until Patricia Mitchell decided she wanted it. What? I genuinely had no memory of this. You wouldn't know, Patricia handled it through shell companies. Hostile takeover tactics. She destroyed our company, our reputation. Alexei couldn't handle it. He jumped from the Roosevelt Bridge 3 years ago. Jesus, Tommy breathed. Patricia's got a body count. At least 2, Elena confirmed, ice in her voice. Your mother and my brother, so yes, this is personal for me. But Robert, I need you to understand something. I have skills, connections that go beyond normal forensic accounting. I can access systems, track money, find information that technically doesn't exist. Are you prepared for that? I thought about Mom. Poisoned slowly while bringing Patricia tea. About Alexei Volkov driven to suicide by Patricia's greed. About 47 men destroyed by Crawford's machine. I'm prepared for whatever it takes, I said. Then you need to know one more thing, Elena said. The Brotherhood isn't just 12 men. Vincent's been conservative. Through my networks, I've identified over 400 victims across 5 states. Crawford has franchised his operation. He's training other lawyers, spreading his methods. Phoenix is just the beginning. 400. My mind couldn't process it. 470 to be exact, Vincent confirmed. And they're all waiting for someone to stand up and say enough. Tonight, at that meeting, you're going to be that someone. I looked around the room. Tommy with his hacking skills, Elena with her intelligence background, Vincent with his media connections, the Brotherhood with their shared rage and resources. For the first time in 30 days, I wasn't playing defense anymore. Then let's give them what they're waiting for, I said. Crawford thinks he's building a trophy room? We're going to turn it into his tomb. Elena smiled, cold and sharp. Welcome to the offensive, Robert. Now let me show you what FSB training can do to a man like James Crawford. The victim phase was over. The warrior had awakened, and he wasn't alone anymore. The sound that woke me at 4 in the morning wasn't my alarm. It was my door exploding off its hinges. FBI, search warrant, nobody move. Flashlights blinded me as I stumbled out of bed in Michael's guest room. 6 agents in tactical gear, weapons drawn, screaming commands. My hands went up instinctively, my mind still foggy from sleep. Robert Mitchell, step away from the computer. Hands where we can see them. Computer. What computer? Then I saw it. A laptop on the nightstand that wasn't mine, wasn't there when I went to sleep. That's not. Shut up. On the ground. Now. They zip-tied my hands behind my back while one agent carefully bagged the laptop. Another was already on his radio. Suspect secured. Digital evidence recovered. Exactly where the tip said it would be. The tip. Someone had planted that laptop and called it in. As they dragged me out in my boxers and t-shirt past Michael's shocked family, I saw the news vans already waiting. Channel 3, Channel 5, Channel 12, all of them. Cameras rolling as Phoenix's newest monster was perp-walked to the FBI van. The lead agent, a woman with cold eyes and EPA on her jacket, leaned in close. Child pornography, Mitchell. Thousands of images. You're done. By noon, my face was on every screen in Arizona. Phoenix Predator, the headline screamed. Respected contractor hides dark secret. They used the worst photo they could find, me at the construction site. Sweaty, angry-looking, hammering something. Perfect villain material. Daniel called from his office parking lot, voice shaking. Dad, they fired me. HR just walked me out. Said they can't have someone associated with what you're accused of. Dad, please tell me it's not true. It's not true, Daniel. You know me. You know I would never. Mom showed me the FBI report. She has copies of everything. She's crying, Dad. Says she never suspected that you were always weird about computers, staying up late. Daniel, listen to me. This is Crawford. This is all. The line went dead. Michael should have been my one phone call, but when I finally reached his office, his secretary was crying. Mr. Chen is in the ICU at Phoenix General. Someone attacked him in the parking garage this morning. They don't know if he's going to make it. My knees gave out. The guard had to hold me up as we walked back to the cell. Elena managed to visit that afternoon, but she looked rattled, something I'd never seen before. It's bad, Robert. Really bad. Barbara Harrison flipped. Crawford paid her $100,000 to feed him our entire strategy. He knew about the trophy room, moved everything to new servers. The Brotherhood meeting last night? He had it recorded. Every man there is getting visited by cops or creditors today. Tommy, I said, is Tommy safe? Elena's face told me everything. They took him 6 hours ago. Professional grab team. Sergio's people. They want 500,000 for his safe return. Jesus Christ. We have to put...
What money?
Elena snapped, then caught herself. I'm sorry. Frank Morrison's office burned down this morning. Total loss. Vincent Marcelli's editor killed his Crawford story. Said it's unsubstantiated conspiracy theory. We're being systematically destroyed, Robert. That's when the guard knocked. Mitchell, your wife's here. Patricia walked into the visitor's room looking like she'd stepped out of a Scottsdale charity luncheon. Perfect makeup, designer dress, and something else. A small bump under her clothes that hadn't been there a month ago. Hello, Robert. She sat down carefully, hands protectively over her stomach. I wanted you to hear this from me first. I'm pregnant. 14 weeks. The math hit me instantly. 14 weeks meant conception in December, right when she'd filed for divorce, when we hadn't been intimate in months. That's impossible. The baby's yours, Robert. She pulled out ultrasound photos, medical records. I know we had that one night in December when you'd been drinking, when you got rough. That never happened. The bruises on my arms say different. Rex Durham's photos say different. And now this baby says different. She leaned forward, voice dropping. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to sign over everything. The company, the houses, all of it. Or I'm adding rape charges to your collection. Child porn and rape, Robert. You'll die in prison. You're not pregnant. This is fake, like everything else. Dr. Morrison at Scottsdale Presbyterian says different. Want to call him? Oh, wait, you can't. You're in jail for being a pedophile. She stood up, smoothing her dress over the fake bump. You have until your arraignment tomorrow to decide. Everything or life in prison as a child molester and rapist. Your choice. After she left, I sat in that visitor's room staring at the scratched metal table. Everyone was hurt or threatened because of me. Michael in the ICU. Tommy kidnapped. Frank's life work burned. The brotherhood exposed and scattered. And now this, framed so perfectly that even my own son doubted me. The guard walked me back to my cell. Solitary confinement, for my own protection since child predators don't do well in general population. The walls were closing in, literally and figuratively. 24 hours until arraignment, and I had nothing. No allies, no resources, no options. I lay on that narrow bunk, staring at the ceiling, and for the first time since this started, I considered giving up, signing it all over, letting them win. At least then the people I cared about would be safe. But then I remembered something Mom used to say. The darkest hour is right before dawn, Roberto. That's when you find out what you're really made of. I thought about those 47 men Crawford had destroyed. How many of them had been in this exact position? Alone, framed, abandoned, with everything stripped away. How many had given up right here, right at this moment when it seemed hopeless? All of them, probably. That's why Crawford won. But I wasn't all of them. I was a man who'd built a company from nothing, who'd raised a son alone, who'd survived my father's death and my mother's murder. I was a man with friends willing to bleed for me, allies willing to risk everything for justice. And somewhere out there, Elena was still working. Tommy, even kidnapped, was probably hacking something. Michael, broken in a hospital bed, was still breathing. The Brotherhood, scattered as they were still angry. Crawford thought he'd checkmated me. Patricia thought she'd won everything. They'd forgotten one thing. I'd spent 30 years in construction. I knew that sometimes you had to demolish everything before you could rebuild. And sometimes when the building was coming down anyway, the smart move was to control the demolition. 24 hours until arraignment. 24 hours to find the one piece of evidence, the one ally, the one miracle that would turn this around. I closed my eyes in that cell, not to sleep, but to think, to plan, to remember every detail Elena had shown me, every file Tommy had hacked, every word Crawford had said in those recordings. Somewhere in all of that was the key, the thing they'd missed, the mistake every criminal makes when they think they've won. I had 24 hours to find it. The darkest hour had come. Now I had to survive until dawn. The federal holding cell at 4 a.m. was the last place I expected to have an epiphany. But as I sat there, 12 hours from arraignment, something my mother had said years ago suddenly made sense. Roberto, if anything happens to me, remember the place where you proposed to your father for me. I'd always thought it was Mom getting confused. She'd had mild dementia near the end, mixing up memories. But what if she hadn't been confused at all? When I was 7, Dad had been planning to propose to Mom at their special place, the old Bank of Arizona on Jefferson Street. But I'd beaten him to it with a ring pop and a 7-year-old's determination, asking her to marry my dad right there in the bank while they were opening their first joint account. It became a family legend. That bank was now a Chase branch, and they still had safety deposit boxes. "Guard," I called out. "I need my lawyer. Emergency call." It took 3 hours, but Elena finally answered, sounding exhausted. "Robert, your arraignment's in 9 hours. Mom left something in a safety deposit box at the Chase on Jefferson. Box 447, the number of our first house. She paid for it annually, automatic withdrawal. I need you to get it." "Robert, I can't just. I'm the executor of her estate. The paperwork's in my office files, bottom drawer, folder marked Caroline Estate." "Elena, please." Mom knew something. 4 hours. That's how long it felt before Elena called back. Her voice different, electric, alive. "Robert, you need to see this. Your mother, she was brilliant." The video was dated March 15th, 2019. 8 months before Mom died. She looked tired but determined, sitting in what looked like Michael Chen's office. "My name is Caroline Elizabeth Mitchell," she began, looking directly at the camera. "I am of sound mind and body, as documented by Dr. Reeves just this morning. I'm making this recording because I believe my daughter-in-law, Patricia Mitchell, is slowly poisoning me." My hands shook as I watched on Elena's phone, held up to the jail visitor's window. 3 months ago, I started feeling sick after every meal Patricia prepared. I started testing my food, simple home kits at first, then professional lab work. Arsenic, consistent doses. I've documented everything. Receipts for the ant poison she buys, laboratory results, even recordings of her preparing my food. Mom held up a thick folder to the camera. "It's all here. I haven't gone to the police because I need to protect my son and grandson. Patricia threatened that if I said anything, she'd destroy Roberto's business with false allegations. So I'm playing along, pretending to get sicker because I need to gather enough evidence to protect my family when I'm gone." The video continued for 20 more minutes. Mom had been a one-woman FBI operation, documenting everything, building a case that would hold up in court. She'd even recorded Patricia talking to someone on the phone, Crawford. We now knew about the timeline and making it look natural. "She was protecting you," Elena said softly. "Even while being murdered, she was protecting you." But that wasn't the only revelation coming. My cell door clanged open. "Mitchell, you've got a visitor, FBI." I expected another interrogator. Instead, Marcus Torres walked in. Except he wasn't Marcus Torres. The laid-back tennis coach swagger was gone, replaced by federal agent intensity. "Mr. Mitchell," he said, sitting down across from me, "Special Agent Marco Ramirez, FBI Financial Crimes Division. We need to talk." My brain couldn't process it. You're Patricia's." "I've been undercover for 2 years investigating James Crawford's connection to organized crime. Your wife hiring me as her boyfriend was actually perfect cover. She has no idea who I really am. But she paid you." Elena found the invoice. "From a fake talent agency we set up. Every dollar she paid went straight into evidence." He pulled out a phone, not his personal one, but an official FBI device. "I've recorded every conversation with Patricia for 8 months. Every admission, every plan, every connection to Crawford and Sergio Torino." He played a recording from last week. Patricia's voice, clear as day. "Once Robert's in prison for the child porn, we can take everything. Crawford says the rape allegation will seal it. No one will believe him after that." Crawford's voice responded, "Just stick to the script about being pregnant. The medical records Elena fabricated are perfect." "Wait," I interrupted. "Elena fabricated? Different Elena. Crawford has a document forger named Elena Vasquez. Ironic, right?" Marco continued. "We've been building a RICO case against Crawford, but we needed him to commit a federal crime. Framing you for child pornography? That's it. We just needed to let it play out far enough to be undeniable. You let me rot in here?" "To save your life," Marco interrupted, "and the lives of 500 other men." "Yeah, Robert, it's not 47 victims. It's closer to 500 across multiple states. Crawford's been franchising his operation, teaching other lawyers his methods. This is organized crime, not divorce law." Before I could respond, Elena burst through the visitor's door, practically glowing. "Tommy's safe, and you're not going to believe how." She held up her tablet, showing security footage from what looked like a warehouse. There was Tommy, supposedly kidnapped, sitting casually at a computer while his captors played cards nearby. "He turned the kidnapping into a hacking operation," Elena explained. "Convinced Sergio's men that he could hack into Crawford's offshore accounts, which he did. Sergio's not stupid. When Tommy showed him proof that Crawford's been skimming from their money laundering operation for years, keeping 2 sets of books, Sergio decided switching sides was smarter than loyalty. Sergio flipped? Completely. He's at FBI headquarters right now, singing like Pavarotti. Names, dates, amounts, murders Crawford ordered. Everything. The hits kept coming. Vincent Marcelli had been busy too. While Crawford thought he'd killed the story, Vincent had gone nuclear. releasing everything directly to social media, bypassing traditional media entirely. The Phoenix Reddit exploded. Twitter went insane. The Brotherhood story went viral. But the biggest bombshell was yet to come. Elena pulled up medical records on her tablet. Patricia's pregnancy. I had a friend at Scottsdale Presbyterian pull her real records. She had an abortion in April 2022. Complications led to emergency surgery. She's permanently infertile, Robert. Has been for 2 years. But the ultrasounds bought online. The medical records, forged by Crawford's Elena Vasquez. The pregnancy bump, a prosthetic she ordered from Amazon. It's all fake. The door burst open again. This time it was a guard. Mitchell, you're being transferred. Federal custody. What? Why? Your arraignment's been moved up. 1 hour. Judge's orders. The ride to the federal courthouse was surreal. No media, they'd used decoy vans. But as we pulled into the underground garage, I saw something that stopped my heart. Daniel, standing there with Michael, who was in a wheelchair but alive, and Frank Morrison, whose office had burned but who'd somehow saved all his digital files in the cloud. Dad, Daniel said, and his voice broke. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I doubted you. Daniel, I've been recording Mom for 6 months, he said in a rush, ever since I found out about Grandma Caroline's death being suspicious. I have everything, Dad. Her admitting to the poisoning, to planning the divorce, to framing you. Everything. The federal courtroom was packed. Not with media, they'd been barred, but with men. Hundreds of men. The Brotherhood had come from 5 states, filling every seat, standing in the aisles. Crawford's victims, no longer hiding, no longer ashamed. Crawford sat at the prosecution table, but for the first time he looked worried. Patricia was beside him, the fake pregnancy bump almost comical now that I knew the truth. The judge, not Harrison, but a federal judge named Anderson, called the court to order. Before we begin, Judge Anderson said, I've been informed of some developments. Agent Ramirez? Marco stood up. Your Honor, the FBI is dropping all charges against Robert Mitchell. The laptop was planted. We have the suspect who placed it. Rex Durham, currently in custody. Furthermore, we're filing federal RICO charges against James Crawford, Patricia Mitchell, and 14 co-conspirators. Crawford shot to his feet. This is ridiculous. Sit down, Mr. Crawford, the judge said coldly. I've reviewed the evidence. 573 victims across 5 states. Money laundering with organized crime. Conspiracy to frame Mr. Mitchell. And he paused, looking at Patricia. Conspiracy to commit murder in the death of Caroline Mitchell. Patricia's fake pregnancy bump actually shifted as she jerked in shock. That's impossible. We have your mother-in-law's video testimony, recorded before her death. We have your purchases of arsenic. We have lab results. Mrs. Mitchell, you're under arrest for murder. The courtroom erupted. The Brotherhood was on their feet, some crying, some cheering. Crawford was screaming about his rights while federal agents cuffed him. Patricia had ripped off her fake bump, throwing it at me while shrieking that this was all my fault. But I just stood there, numb, as the truth finally sank in. We'd won, not just the divorce, but everything. Justice for Mom, freedom for me, the destruction of Crawford's entire criminal enterprise. Daniel's arms wrapped around me. Dad, it's over. It's finally over. Actually, Elena said, appearing beside us with that sharp smile I'd grown to appreciate, it's just beginning. We have a construction company to rebuild, a brotherhood to organize, and about 573 civil lawsuits to file. Vincent Marcelli was already on his phone with his editor. Yeah, you're going to want to clear the front page. I've got the story of the decade. As the federal marshals led Crawford and Patricia away, Patricia turned back one last time. I loved you once, she said. Before the money, before all of this. I looked at the woman who'd murdered my mother, who'd tried to destroy everything I'd built, who'd hired an actor to play her lover, and worn a fake pregnancy bump to frame me for rape. No, Patricia, I said quietly. You loved what I could give you. There's a difference. The marshals dragged her away, still screaming. Crawford was silent now, his empire in ruins, his trophy room about to become evidence in 500 trials. Tommy walked up, grinning despite a black eye from his kidnapping. Uncle Robert, you realize what this means. You're about to become the most famous divorced man in America. Great, I laughed, and it felt good to laugh. Just what I always wanted. Michael, from his wheelchair, raised his good arm. To the Brotherhood, to justice. To Caroline Mitchell, who saved us all from beyond the grave. We stood there in that federal courtroom, beaten but not broken, bloodied but not bowed. The Phoenix Predator headlines would be replaced tomorrow with the truth. The money would be recovered. The company would be rebuilt. But most importantly, Mom's death would not be in vain. The power had been inside all along, in the truth, in the brotherhood, in the love of a mother who'd protected her son even while being murdered. Crawford had built his empire on destroyed men. We'd destroyed his empire by refusing to stay down. 6 months. That's how long it took for the legal system to completely unravel James Crawford's empire and deliver justice for my mother's murder. 6 months of testimonies, evidence processing, and watching the woman I'd loved for 32 years transform from defiant to defeated. The September morning when Judge Anderson delivered the final verdicts, the federal courthouse was packed again. Not just with the Brotherhood, but with media from across the country. The story of 573 destroyed men fighting back had captured America's attention. James Crawford, Judge Anderson's voice echoed through the courtroom, on 47 counts of RICO violations, 200 counts of fraud, conspiracy to commit murder, money laundering, and extortion. Guilty on all counts, you're hereby sentenced to 25 years to life in federal prison, no possibility of parole for 15 years. Crawford didn't react. He'd aged 20 years and 6 months, his shark smile replaced by hollow eyes. The man who'd built his empire on broken families was now just another number in the federal system. Patricia Mitchell, the judge continued, and I forced myself to look at her. The designer clothes were gone, replaced by a plain gray suit from Target. No makeup, her roots showing gray, looking every one of her 54 years. On the charge of first-degree murder in the death of Caroline Mitchell, guilty. Conspiracy to commit fraud, guilty. Filing false allegations, guilty. Attempted extortion, guilty. Judge Anderson paused. The court sentences you to 15 to 25 years in state prison, with possibility of parole after 12 years. Patricia's legs gave out. The bailiff had to hold her up. For the first time since this nightmare began, she looked directly at me, and I saw something I hadn't seen in years: genuine emotion, fear, regret, maybe even remorse. After the verdicts, Marco Ramirez, who'd shed his Marcus Torres identity completely, pulled me aside in the courthouse hallway. "There's something else you need to know," he said, handing me a folder marked FBI Confidential. "We found Patricia's future plans on her laptop. You weren't the only target, Robert." I opened the folder and felt sick. 5 names, 5 photographs, 5 financial portfolios, all men over 50, all wealthy, all with much younger second wives, who Patricia had been cultivating friendships with at the country club. She was teaching them, Marco explained, running a workshop on maximizing divorce settlements. She called it the Crawford method. You were supposed to be the proof of concept. Jesus Christ. She was franchising murder and theft. The FBI's reaching out to all 5 men now. Your case saved their lives, Robert. Maybe literally. The thought of Patricia running some kind of Black Widow Academy should have enraged me. Instead, I just felt tired and sad. When had the woman I'd married become this monster? Or had she always been one and I'd been too in love to see it? The house, our house, my house, that complicated piece of real estate that had started this whole war, sat empty for 2 months after the court returned it to me. I'd go there sometimes, walk through rooms that echoed with memories, trying to decide what to do with it. The answer came from an unexpected source: the Brotherhood. "We need a place," Vincent Marcelli said at one of our meetings. We'd been gathering weekly at a rented conference room, but it wasn't enough. Somewhere men going through this can stay, regroup, get legal help. Somewhere that proves you can survive this. I looked around the room at 43 faces, men who'd lost everything to Crawford and lawyers like him who were slowly rebuilding their lives with our help. "The house," I said suddenly. "We'll convert it. Mitchell House, a place to rebuild." Tommy Chen, who'd become our unofficial tech officer, immediately started sketching on his tablet. "We can convert the main floor to offices, legal aid, counseling, job placement, the upstairs into temporary housing, maybe 8 bedrooms, the pool house into a meeting space. I can get nonprofit status filed within a week," Michael added. He'd recovered from the attack, though he still walked with a cane. Tax-exempt, able to accept donations, and that's what we did. The house that had been a symbol of my marriage's failure became a beacon of hope for men facing the same destruction I'd survived. The day we opened Mitchell House, 3 months after the trial, Patricia's sister Margaret called me. "She wants to see you," Margaret said. "Patricia, It took another month, and a conversation with Sarah Chen that finally convinced me." Sarah, Michael's younger sister, a widow who'd lost her husband to cancer 3 years ago. She'd been quietly present throughout the ordeal, bringing food when I was living on Michael's couch, sitting silently in the courtroom during the trial, helping organize the Mitchell House renovation. "You need closure," she said over coffee one morning. We'd been having coffee every morning for 2 months, a routine that had become the best part of my day. Not for her, for you. The Arizona State Prison Complex in Perryville was a 2-hour drive from Phoenix. Patricia was in the minimum security wing. She'd been a model prisoner, apparently. When they brought her into the visitor's room, I barely recognized her. She'd lost weight, her hair was completely gray now, and she wore thick prison-issued glasses. But the biggest change was in her eyes. The calculating coldness was gone, replaced by something I hadn't seen since the early years of our marriage: vulnerability. "Hello, Robert," she said quietly, sitting down across from me. "Patricia." We sat in silence for a full minute before she spoke again. "I killed your mother." The words came out in a rush. "I know you know, but I need to say it. I killed Caroline. I poisoned her slowly, watched her die, held her hand at the end while thinking about the insurance money. Why? It was the only question that mattered. Because I could. Because I wanted things. Nice things, status, power. And she was in the way. You were always going to choose her over me, if it came down to it." Patricia laughed bitterly. "Turns out I was right. She protected you from beyond the grave." She was 78 years old, Patricia. She was sick. She was getting better. That's why I had to accelerate the dosing. She'd started to suspect, started documenting things. Patricia looked at her hands. "Your mother was brilliant, Robert, smarter than both of us. She played dying perfectly while gathering evidence. She knew exactly what I was doing and let me do it to protect you. The rage I'd expected to feel didn't come. Instead, there was just sadness. Profound, bone-deep sadness for the waste of it all. "I'm paying for a lawyer for you," I said. "Not Crawford's people. A real defense attorney." Patricia's head snapped up. "Why?" "Because I loved you for 32 years. That doesn't just disappear. The woman I married is gone. Maybe never existed, but the love I felt was real. I can't just turn that off." For the first time in 2 years, Patricia Mitchell cried. Real tears, not the practiced ones she'd used in court. She sobbed like a broken child, and for a moment I saw the 22-year-old girl I'd married, before the greed, before the evil. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "God, Robert, I'm so sorry. I destroyed everything good in my life for money I'll never get to spend." I didn't forgive her. Couldn't, but I reached across the table and held her hand for a moment, remembering better times, before standing to leave. "Robert," she called as I reached the door. "Daniel, does he hate me?" "No," I said honestly. "He pities you, which might be worse. A year. That's how long it took to fully rebuild my life, my company, my sense of self." Phoenix Rising, the consulting firm Elena and I had launched, had helped over 1,000 men navigate hostile divorces. We'd developed a playbook: legal strategies, financial protection, emotional support that had an 80% success rate in achieving fair settlements. Elena herself had become one of my closest friends, her Ice Queen exterior melting to reveal a brilliant, funny, deeply loyal person. She was the best business partner I could have asked for, and the sister I'd never had. The Brotherhood had grown to over 2,000 members across 7 states. We had chapters, meetings, a website Tommy had built that got 50,000 hits a day. Vincent's book about Crawford's empire had become a bestseller. The TV rights had sold for enough to fund Mitchell House for 10 years. But the best part of this new life was Sarah. It had started slowly. Those morning coffees, then dinners, then long walks where we talked about everything and nothing. She understood loss, understood rebuilding, understood that love after 50 wasn't about passion, but about partnership. "I'm not Patricia," she'd said on our first official date with typical directness. "I don't want your money or your status. I have my own business, my own life. I just want you." We married on a small beach in San Diego, just family and close friends. Michael was my best man again, 34 years after he'd done the job the first time. Daniel stood beside him, grinning, his arm around Tommy's waist. That had been the year's biggest surprise, my son coming out as bisexual, in love with his best friend's son. But watching them together, seeing the genuine affection and respect, I realized this was what real love looked like. No calculation, no manipulation, just 2 people choosing each other. The reception was at Mitchell House, the backyard full of Brotherhood members and their families. Men who'd been broken, who'd rebuilt, who'd learned that survival wasn't just possible but probable with the right support. Crawford, I heard, was having a rough time in federal prison. Turns out when you've destroyed 500 men's lives, some of their friends end up as your fellow inmates. He'd been beaten so many times they'd moved him to solitary for his own protection. He'd die in there, alone, his empire a cautionary tale taught in law schools about what happens when greed becomes pathology. Patricia had found purpose teaching literacy to other inmates. Margaret visited her monthly, said she seemed at peace for the first time in decades. She'd never get out, 15 years minimum, but maybe she'd find redemption. Stranger things had happened. As for me, I stood in the backyard of Mitchell House, my arm around Sarah, watching Daniel and Tommy dance badly to an old song, surrounded by men who'd been through hell and survived. Frank Morrison raised a glass to Robert Mitchell, who showed us that when they take everything, they actually give you the chance to rebuild better. To the Brotherhood, Vincent added. To the men who refused to stay down. To Caroline Mitchell, Elena said quietly, who loved her son enough to solve her own murder. To second chances, Sarah whispered, kissing my cheek. I looked around at this life I'd built from the ashes of destruction. A better life, honestly, more authentic, more meaningful, more real than the facade I'd maintained for 3 decades. Patricia had been right about one thing during that last prison visit. I had given her the house, but she'd given me something more valuable, the chance to discover who I really was when everything else was stripped away. A builder, a father, a friend, a survivor, and now, finally, a man at peace. You know what? I said to the assembled crowd, raising my own glass. Patricia wanted the house, so I gave it to her. But she gave me something better. She gave me my life back. And look what we've built with it. The cheer that went up could probably be heard in Scottsdale, where Patricia's former country club friends were likely still gossiping about the scandal. Let them talk. We had better things to do. We had lives to rebuild, men to save, futures to construct. And tomorrow morning, over coffee with Sarah, we'd continue the work. One day, one man, one victory at a time. The war was over, the peace was beautiful, and the house had finally become a home.